Welcome to For Your Amusement, a theme park podcast that aims to exhaustively evaluate the world's most popular theme park attractions to determine if they are world class. I'm Ryan Bergara.
I'm Byron Marin.
And for this episode's featured attraction, we strap on our seatbelts and design an abomination of a car for the sim track to discuss Test Track at EPCOT in Walt Disney World, Orlando, Florida. And as always, go ahead and like and subscribe if you're watching on youtube.com/watcherpodcasts, or subscribe and rate the podcast 5 stars if you're just listening. And hey, tell a friend. It'll help keep this show alive.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting ride in that the current version is not very interesting at all. And that
I think some would disagree. I have a feeling that for this episode, I'm gonna have to go to bat a little bit.
You might have to, because I'm not a fan.
Some
of
that might be swayed by what it was as opposed to what it is, or at least what it was prior to today. For context, yesterday was the last day that
Fair enough.
Test Track 2.0 was open.
That's correct.
Which is really funny because I looked on the app this morning.
Yeah.
Mission Space has a 50-minute wait.
Yeah, the Epcot does not have too many attractions, so losing Test Track is a big blow. But you're right. My mind is stuck, as Thanos once said. There are too many people who knew what once was, and therefore they cannot see what can be. Mm-hmm. And I think for this particular attraction, I am maybe stuck on what was.
Now, regardless of the theming of Test Track, it's pretty crazy to think that Epcot went from no thrill rides until 1999 when Test Track opened to now having like a mini Murder's Row of thrill rides. It's just in that particular corner of the park.
Cosmic Rewind, Test Track, Mission Space, and then Frozen Ever After. If you want to continue past Mexico into Norway.
it definitely fades it out there, you know.
That could be, it's pretty thrilling. Have you ever seen Olaf's figure skate before? I have. He's got funny little feet because he's a funny little snowman. We're not here to talk about him,
the big snowman tries to eat you. All this. I don't know. That's a reach.
We're here to talk about Test Track. Why we're covering this? I was going to say, why are we covering this? It's timely, as Byron as he just mentioned. Test Track is closing in its current version and will reopen, I guess, reported more historic fashion in the sense that they're going to pay homage a little bit more to World of Motion.
That's what they've teased. They did put out like a concept art, but you know, always a little bit with a grain of salt when it comes to concept art these days.
You never know.
I don't think they had no window for when this would reopen.
Yeah.
I actually find that wise because the turnaround times are never what they seem, even for the early iterations of this ride, which we will get into eventually.
No, things take a lot longer for some reason when it comes to Disney parks. I'm not quite sure why. Sometimes they deliver, sometimes they don't. Who knows? We'll see what happens with Test Track. That all being said, why don't we go ahead and jump into some first impressions here? What was your first impression of this? This is going to be interesting because this is going to be basically... How about this? Let me get your first impression of the original Test Track. And then,
for sure. And then we got to start with the original. Which, by the way, did you experience the original version?
Oh, of course I did.
Okay.
And then I want to get your first impression of the new version. So let's start with the old.
So the original version I actually rode in 2000.
Okay.
So I was a boy, a wee boy. The ride had only been open for a year because I rode it in the spring of 2000.
It's brand spanking new. It's about a year.
Brand spanking new. You know, the internet wasn't as much of a thing, especially for someone of my age at the time.
Yeah.
So what you see is kind of in the park maps, the brochures, the hotel programming.
Yeah.
I didn't know about this ride prior to our trip to Disney World as a spring break trip. And I was immediately enamored with, oh my God, they have this fast car ride that I saw like on a photo of the park map. And this was early thrill ride days for little Byron. So that was the ride I wanted to do at Epcot.
Well, you also get to see it on the outside, which is nice.
Kind of. And this is so funny enough, because yesterday was Father's Day. I was with my parents and I brought up, hey, we're covering Test Track tomorrow.
Okay.
Do you remember Test Track? And I pulled a few notable quotes from this this conversation with their permission. Like halfway through, I'm like, I got to get the voice memo going. Just continue.
You're like a reporter in your own. You brought a voice memo. a recorder over to your Father's Day celebration?
Yeah. It's called my iPhone.
That's
which
correct.
It's just an easy push with a button. But I was
Everyone
like,
has one of those, huh?
after a couple of minutes, I'm like, oh, this is really good. All
Yeah.
right. So my mom's response as I brought up Test Track was, yeah, I remember Test Track. That ride was bitching. Wait, actually, my mom continued and said the queue was all about those crash dummies.
Yes.
Crash dummies were huge back then. So in a way, it was educational, but also in a way, kind of creepy.
She means huge by big in the zeitgeist, not so much that the crash dummies were actually physically large.
Exactly. Yeah. It was kind of it was with the era, because my dad continued and said, in terms of my mom saying it was creepy, he said, I didn't see it that way. Because he argued that people had already been exposed to the crash dummies for decades prior to Test Track coming out via all the commercials and PSAs.
Yeah.
So he thought it was, he said, in quote, it was feeding off of movement to make cars safer.
Yes.
But my dad would also go on to add that after over 25 years of crash dummy exposure, we don't need to see them anymore. And he said, in quote, maybe you don't put that in a queue anymore and make it a highlight of the queue. You can't do that forever. You move forward.
I have to respectfully disagree.
Or you would say you would keep the crash dummies?
I like the crash dummies.
I think it was fun for the time.
Aren't we all crash test dummies in this world of, this crazy
Look, I
world
won't
we're in?
disagree with you in the sense that it did make the ride more fun. And maybe that's nostalgia talking.
I think it's pretty good. We'll get into that later.
The idea that you are essentially a crash dummy.
That's right. It's a good metaphor for life.
Oh, God. But anyways, this since it was only a year in, this ride was super unreliable.
Yes.
It was breaking down throughout the day. We had a fast pass that we got, I think, early in the day, as I recall, because I wanted to ride this so bad.
Yeah.
And we didn't ride it until like right before the park closed, because it just kept breaking down. So our time just kept getting pushed and and pushed. But it did make that first experience electric.
Oh, dude, don't you ever wish you just kept some of those paper fast passes? I bet you a paper fast pass for Test Track, the old Test Track, would be fucking sick.
I wish I had footage, honestly.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But very much a core memory. More quotes here. It was very, very popular. It was very new. And the first thing that you experienced was the sound. That's what my mom said. And that's very true, because that final, hard bank left that kind of hugs the perimeter of that building is facing away. So you just see the back of the track, but you hear the car whizzing by. It was loud, and loud equals fast, which is incredible for the anticipation that you get.
It sounded like the rocket rods back at Disneyland.
True. Very
like
true. So to feel like the wind on our face zooming around that track the first time
with actual tires hitting the ground
was incredible. To feel the temperature changes inside the test simulations.
So good.
The build up for it. I do recall this. Gosh, there's things about this original iteration of seeing an actual car hit the crash test. And then you immediately turn, and then you see a wall in front of you as if you are the dummy that's going to experience what you just saw, that
the barrier
other
test.
car, and then all of a sudden it opens up and it takes you for that final
it's very good
fast spin. An electrifying first experience, and I'll leave it at that.
To the dulcet tones of John Michael Higgins' voice, which is he's a funny guy. I will say my first impression of this was also very similar. I was blown away by this ride. The story was spectacular, that you are these crash test dummies. They set it up perfectly in the queue that you're going to be running all these kinds of tests. And also in the ride itself, it's very clear what the tests are. And I don't know, it just felt like you were going through a real experience, because it's all set in the proving grounds, which are real things over at GM.
Yeah, that's right. They got the
GM proving grounds. I forget which state they're in. I just found myself blown away by not only just the dark ride elements, but also by how thrilling it was. I think it was my first truly thrilling dark ride I'd ever been on. Because I've been on dark rides before, and I guess to this point I'd been on Indy, but this went faster than Indy.
Yeah, I mean, this is still Disney's fastest ride.
Walt Disney World's.
I think it's Disney.
Is it still in the world?
Disney's fastest ride.
Really? Even after some of the stuff in Shanghai and Disney Sea and all that stuff?
What, Tron 59, Cosmic Rewind 60.
What
Rock
about
and Roller Coaster 57.
No, I guess so. Yeah, I can't believe Rock and Roller Coaster is only 57.
Now, did you know that traditional bed sheets can harbor more bacteria than a toilet seat?
No, I didn't know that.
It can lead to acne, allergies, and stuffy noses. It's just gross. Miracle Made offers a whole line of self-cleaning, antibacterial bedding such as sheets, pillowcases, and comforters that prevent up to 99.7% of bacteria growth and require up to 3 times less laundry.
Inspired by NASA, Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics and makes temperature-regulating bedding so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. Miracle Sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands and feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels.
Which basically means you could just quit throwing away all those precious hours in bed and go to trymiracle.com/FYA to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift to a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code FYA at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%.
Dang, 3 free towels.
And you know what? Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund.
Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/FYA and use the code FYA to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/FYA to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. Now let's go to the current version, because I experienced this the first time in 2006. And I loved it. I was like, This might be my favorite ride in the entire resort.
Prior to going on the new version.
Now skip to the new version, which I went on for the first time, I believe, around 2016. Let's go to you first, Byron.
Okay, that works. Because I went on it, I think 2013?
So a year after it was remade.
Maybe it was 2014. It might have been end of 2013 because I think it was the holidays.
So about 1 to 2 years after it reopened.
Yeah, so it was fresh.
As Test Track 2.0.
It was firing on all cylinders as Test Track 2.0. So
as much as it could.
As much as it could. I'm just saying this was at its best.
Yeah. Now, do you recall? I want to remind you, we are rating this ride in its current iteration.
When in regards to the world-class tests,
okay. I'm just saying.
I am not going to, shoehorn some
don't
some
let the
wins
nostalgia
here.
get the better of you.
Yeah. No, we're gonna ultimately for world-class tests, we will grade it as it was prior to it closing.
Respect the tests.
2.0. So in regards to 2.0, I remember enjoying the interactive moments immensely. This was also during a time that Disney was doing like the Fast Pass Plus.
Yeah.
So it was like you would reserve, I recall like months in advance, you would reserve your Fast Passes.
Yes, you could do it up to 60 days in advance.
So we already
if you had a hotel,
had,
or 90 days, I think, if you had hotel reservation.
Yeah, I think.
Or maybe it was 30 and then 60 was the hotel. I can't remember. They switched systems so many times that it's like hard to keep
it's
track.
a moving goalpost. And I don't think we stayed on property, but we still got like the 30 days. So we had a Fast Pass for Test Track.
Nice.
So I got to miss a lot of the queue. Sometimes I prefer first times going standby because there are a lot of elements in the queue, such as Flight of Passage or, other big rides like that have like a lot to take out of the queue. This one, on subsequent rides, I realized I wasn't missing anything. I'm glad I went straight into designing the car. I thought that was really neat. I was surprised because I didn't know that it got a big refurb.
Yes.
I wasn't tracking this. So I was immediately noticing, like the aesthetics really clean. It's Chevrolet now, the subsidiary of the brand of General Motors.
Yeah.
So I thought that was super fun because this was like when magic bands were I don't think we had magic bands yet, but we saw some people. We had to scan our ticket, but the people that had the hotel thing, hotel reservations, they had the magic band, so they were scanning their thing. We used our ticket.
Yeah.
I thought it was really neat that before you boarded, what you designed was going to like have a role in your experience.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't remember being wowed. I remember getting off the ride and I like looking around feeling like, yeah, Test Track. That was super cool. It's different now. It's updated. But I think in my heart of hearts, I felt like, I guess this ride wasn't as great as I remember. But then again, it's so different now. And like over the years, it's really dawned on me how important that first version was. And like when it came, like there's so many little things it was grittier. It was like it wasn't this as much of like this glossy, super techy
the sim track.
Yeah, where this was all like future, but it kind of felt soulless.
Yes, it did. It reminds me a lot of Tomorrowland.
It's more about what you feel on the ride than what you see, and not feel like in an emotional way. But when it comes to Test Track 2.0, there's really no substance there.
You feel nothing.
It is soulless. And a lot of that will come up in my bads.
Oh, I can't wait.
And every new time I go, well, yeah, we'll get to that later. But once again, everything was firing on all cylinders because it was recently renovated.
Yeah.
So when I scan my thing, after every test simulation on the quote unquote the sim track, you actually did see the car that you designed and you got to follow your status. I'm sure we'll cover that at some point in the bads, what it came to be. But even with everything working properly, it was a soulless overlay.
Yeah, my first impression when I got on this ride was similar to yours in that like you're like, hey, that ride sucked. Except I had that while I was on the ride. I was like, hey, this ride sucks now. What the hell? And it made me realize how important storytelling and theming is because it's the same track. It's the same exact
same
track.
Same layout, same speed.
They just completely took away everything. Also, the queue. I walked into the queue and I was like, "Why does this look like a security center in the Tron universe?" Like, I don't understand where I am, what I'm doing here. Now I'm in the car. Now everything looks the same. Essentially, I just was so sad after I got off this.
Well, no pre-show anymore.
To me, because like one of my favorite rides in the world is Indiana Jones Adventure over in Disneyland. It would be like if they just overnight changed that to, I don't know, something else completely. Like just like a completely different ride, just the same cars. And I felt betrayed. I felt betrayed. I was like, what the hell just happened? Which is why, honestly, I am so stoked for the new test track. And I think they're going to try and right their wrongs. Very similar to when we covered Figment. They changed that, completely made that something different. And then they changed it back to a version that was kind of like, almost like a pandered hybrid, which I imagine, honestly, I'll take that for test track. If they change it back somewhat to the original and add some like newer elements, I would be thrilled with that. Or even if they go halfway back, I would be thrilled with that. Just because whatever it is right now, I don't like. And look, maybe I would like it if I had gotten on this first without experiencing the old one.
I want to be optimistic.
Sure.
About this new version.
Sure.
And you know what? Funny enough, this is so ironic, I feel like. I think what could potentially save this new version, this is going to sound so bitter, but the fact that General Motors is still the sponsor.
I thought Chevy was still.
Well, GM is Chevy.
Oh,
it's just a different brand. But since they've had such a long-standing relationship, I'm hopeful that since GM is providing the funding for this,
yeah,
and it seems like they're going to take the time because the Test Track 2.0, they took like 8 months to reskin and turn that thing around.
Yeah.
They don't have a timetable for when this opens. So I think it's going to be a much more extensive refurbishment.
We'll see.
Maybe it's wishful thinking.
It seems very wishful.
They have Cosmic Rewind there to carry a lot of the weight.
Yeah, so why wouldn't they phone this one in then?
I'm being optimistic, Ryan.
Look, man.
I'm just saying GM wants the ride to be, I think GM knows that they made a mistake. And since GM is helping fund this project, I think they could go a lot harder than, say, some of the other recent overlays or rethemes that have happened throughout Disney parks in recent years.
You know, as the great George W. Bush Jr. once said, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me. You fool me once, you can't fool me again.
Just let me look forward. Just let me look forward to something.
That's fair. Look, I just don't want to have my heart broken 2 times, but I will be I will be seated on this once it reopens. Hopefully, really close to when it opens, so I don't get any spoilers. Because God knows I'm trying to avoid all spoilers for Tiana's Bayou Adventure.
Oh yeah,
which at the time of this recording I have not been on yet. I know people have seem to have some pretty strong opinions about that ride, though. It seems like so.
Was there any way around that? Anyway,
I'm going to give it its fair shot. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. If you made a website, you know it could be tough to get the design right. Hex codes? What even are those?
Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to time. All in one place, all on your terms.
Yeah, start a completely personalized website with the new guided design system, Squarespace Blueprint. Choose from professionally curated layout and styling options to build a unique online presence from the ground up, tailored to your brand or business and optimized for every device.
Ooh, tell me more.
I will. And staying up to date on the latest in styles can be difficult, but Squarespace has you covered, and they update these themes and templates often, so you can be sure that your website always has the latest look, effects, and tech.
With Fluid Engine, the next generation website editor from Squarespace, it's never been easier for anyone to unlock unbreakable creativity. Choose your website starting point and customize every design detail with reimagined drag and drop technology for desktop or mobile. Stretch your imagination online with Fluid Engine, included in any new Squarespace site.
Yeah, that's right. Easily launch your website and get discovered fast with integrated optimized SEO tools, so you show up more often to more people and grow the way you want.
Whatever your needs, Squarespace is there to work for you. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/FYA to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Now back to the show. And we are back. It's time for some history. Byron, take it away.
October 1st, 1982, World of Motion, along with the entirety of EPCOT Center, opens to immediate praise and serves as one of the most popular attractions for the new theme park. But how did this slow-moving Omnimover type ride through the history of transportation come to be? Well, this was made possible due to General Motors signing on to sponsor the ride's designated pavilion back in the mid-1970s. The agreement with General Motors would make World of Motion the first of many attractions to receive a sponsor during Epcot's development and construction phase. This one's really interesting. A little mini history within the history.
Yeah.
That I didn't want to write down. But as many Disney fans know, that during the 1964 World's Fair, Ford had Disney make their attraction, Ford's Magic Skyway.
Yes.
What a lot of people don't know
A predecessor to the People Mover.
It was. That technology went into the People Mover. As a matter of fact, Ford decided not to sponsor the People Mover afterward because they thought that the People Mover was threatening the automotive industry.
Yeah.
So Goodyear, who made the tires for the People Mover, went on to become the People Mover sponsor.
Again, I laughed at that, but if I could cruise around LA in a People Mover car, I would. I'd do it.
Oh, I'd love it.
Sick. Sitting at a red light, just having people look at my car, be like, what the fuck is that? I'd be down.
Top down and everything.
Yeah, top down. I mean, you have no choice.
A little bit of breeze.
Yeah.
Moving just as fast as the traffic here.
That's correct.
Long story short, GM saw this as an opportunity, perhaps, to slip in and get a sponsorship with Disney back when Epcot was in development. A big incentive for them, supposedly, was that they didn't want Ford to take the sponsorship for this World of Motion pavilion.
Yeah, makes sense.
And to go even further, not many people know that General Motors had their own attraction called Futurama 2, which was like a sequel to an attraction they premiered in 1939 at the World's Fair. That was actually the most attended attraction at the 1964 World's Fair.
Huh. Interesting.
Anyways, GM sweeps in, they get this sponsorship, one of the early sponsors for Epcot. And by this time, Imagineers were no stranger when it came to developing transportation-based attractions. From trains to automobiles to people movers, they had already proven time and time again that they can captivate park guests through these types of attractions. Spearheading what would become World of Motion was none other than Imagineering legend Claude Coates, who would quickly hit a roadblock when presenting story outlines to General Motors, who felt that the attraction needed to have a sense of humor. Can you predict where this is going?
With Claude Coates of all people telling him that.
Like, as in General Motors' feedback to Claude Coates was, hey, this needs some more humor. We need some more Disney magic, Disney charm to this attraction. Who had Claude Coates worked with in
He's
the
not going to go to
past?
Mark Davis, is he? Yeah.
Coates, perhaps keeping his ego in check or not, who knows, would pull none other than Mark Davis out of retirement to give the attraction that much needed spirit. Additionally, legendary Disney animator and train enthusiast Ward Kimball would also come on to handle the attraction's development and execution endeavors. This was, by the way, the only attraction that Ward Kimball worked on. You would think he had worked on other Disney attractions. He was just a big train nut with Walt Disney.
Well, didn't he help build the railroad? And
I think he he had urged Disney to do something that would lead to the Disneyland Railroad, but there's no proof of him ever working on any other attraction.
I see.
This transportation pavilion, spanning 320 feet in diameter and standing 55 feet tall, would be brought to life with a whimsical theme song entitled It's Fun to Be Free, which was written by Ex Atencio and Buddy Baker. Ex Atencio writing the lyrics, Buddy Baker composing the music.
Ex Atencio known for writing the Pirates score.
That's
for
right.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Even doing some VO work in that. And then during Epcot's inaugural years, World of Motion would serve as one of the park's most popular attractions, but nearly a decade into operation, General Motors was reaching the end of their 10-year sponsorship commitment and was in rough financial shape. They would agree to extend their sponsorship by 1 year, which by the end primed them to make another long-term extension to the sponsorship. But for this to happen, GM wanted a new attraction to take place of World of Motion. They wanted an attraction that was more specific to cars as opposed to transportation as a whole. Inspired by a 1970s trip that the Imagineers took to the Milford Proving Grounds, aka the automotive industry's first dedicated testing facility, the team behind this new project would decide to go back, with ideas of bringing innovative safety enhancements and the potential thrills of collision tests into the project. In November of 1995, Disney announced that Test Track was to replace World of Motion with an opening date slated for May of 1997. So on January 2nd of 1996, World of Motion would close permanently. The large circular building would stay standing, but its insides would get gutted completely as Imagineers were on a mission to transform the pavilion into the home for Epcot's first thrill ride. But the highly anticipated opening date for this new and exciting attraction would miss the mark by nearly 2 years. I don't have this written, why it caused the delays, but I guess I could spitball another history within the history. There's a couple huge variables that came into play which caused this to get delayed to the extent that it did. First one, to a lesser degree, being that during the early testing phases, the tires were wearing much more rapidly than the Imagineers had anticipated. Yeah. So Goodyear had to go back and create custom tires to handle these new ride vehicles, because this is where they introduced the slot car system. Yes. The first of its kind. Although a lot of the tech was used in 1995's Indiana Jones with the EMVs. Yeah. This was in many ways a new ride system. And so that's the first big hurdle. The second and much bigger hurdle was that they had a third party enlisted to program the ride vehicles. Long story short, the programmers, the work they were doing was to accommodate something to the tune of 5 to 8 vehicles. Yes. Something in that range. And Disney, to handle the capacity they needed for this ride, wanted them to program for 29 cars. Yes. So what happens is Disney and the Imagineers have to do away with these programmers, and they have to program this thing themselves, which is probably a year plus process and is very evident in how this attraction opens. December 19th of 1998, Test Track soft opens but fails hard. The ride was so prone to breaking down that the official opening day would get delayed for several months. So on March 17th of 1999, Test Track finally opened to the public.
Brace yourself.
The ultimate automotive experience.
Although the ride was still very prone to downtime in its opening years, those who were lucky to ride it were universally impressed. Test Track would spend over the next decade enjoying its e-ticket status, with only 2005's Soarin' serving as any sort of competitor to being Epcot's most popular ride. But the times, they changed, and they changed fast, and in January of 2012, Disney Parks announced that Test Track would receive a major refurbishment.
It's a little disrespectful to Maelstrom. I think that's an e-ticket.
E-ticket?
That's right.
Spirit of Norway.
I think it's more of an e-ticket than Soarin'.
Yeah?
At least in Epcot. I think it is. Just saying.
So in December of 2012, just 8 months following the ride's closure, Test Track would reopen with a completely new ride experience. Although the layout would remain the same, the interior aesthetic and overall ride experience was completely transformed into something more forward-thinking. GM decided to have the ride represented by their subsidiary brand, Chevrolet, as guests now found themselves traversing a Chevrolet design center, destined to design their own vehicles to ultimately test out on what was called the Sim Track. The changes were met with a rather mixed reception. However, the thrills were identical, and Test Track continued to boast some of the park's highest wait times for its second decade of operation, the Test Track 2.0 phase, if you will. But in September of 2023, Disney announced another major refurbishment to the attraction. And on June 17th of 2024, aka today, the day of this recording, Test Track closed with no reopening date slated.
Yeah, that is interesting. I wonder when it's actually going to open, because it took them a million years to make that Play Pavilion thing that they've done, which I've seen also have less than stellar reviews.
Well, Play never actually came to be, right?
No, I guess what was it called? It was like a Communicore Plaza.
They did open like some new iteration.
It's called Communicore Plaza.
Yeah, which apparently is, I haven't looked. Apparently it's pretty barren.
Yeah, I've seen a couple photos of that, and it looks like a place where it would be great to have a good company retreat if you worked in like the stock market or something like that.
Yeah, I hear that's a laughing stock of sorts.
Kind of.
Could you take a crack at the average wait time of Test Track?
I'm gonna go with 50 minutes.
That's a really good guess.
What is it?
58 minutes all-time average.
Yeah, that makes sense. I seldom see it under 45, which in the past I would be like, yeah, I'll wait that. Mm-hmm. But now, to prove this, I have actually gone to EPCOT several times in the past couple years. I don't think I've been on Test Track the last 2 times I've been to EPCOT. And that's me flying to EPCOT and then still seeing like a 45-minute wait for Test Track and being like, no, thank you.
I get it.
It's because I
understand it.
I don't enjoy myself on this ride anymore.
I still like going fast. That's the problem. I want to go fast. I'm Ricky Bobby.
Well, I took my wife to Epcot for the first time, and we were so enamored by World Showcase, obviously, and Cosmic Rewind and everything else they have that's going over there, Living with the Land, things like that. And then she was like, "What about Test Track?" And I was like, "Well, we're running out of time. We got to make our dinner resi soon. Trust me, not worth it." And that is the truth.
I don't know. Mari likes thrill rides.
She does like going fast. You guys are both like Sonic. Gotta go fast.
But yeah, I kind of got the same gist that 45 minutes to 75 minutes is the consistent range. I often see it sitting at 60, which is an indication to me that people are willing to wait up to an hour, but there is a balking point that follows shortly after. You don't see those like 180-minute waits that you see over like a Flight of Passage or something for this anymore. Whereas in its opening years, it was constantly a 2-hour wait.
Yeah, well, you got it. I will say, and I will say it again, is that I imagine that people who are getting on this ride now who haven't been on the prior version post or pre-2012, they probably enjoy this ride maybe. I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I don't really I should just next time I go to Epcot, I'm going to
You're gonna be that. You're gonna be like that
there
guy
anymore. But I should have. The last 2 times at Epcot, I should have been gathering data. I should have just like waited by the exit with a clipboard, my FYA clipboard, and been like, "Hey, do you have fun?"
One of those little man on the street interviews.
Would you say you have bounce? Anyways, let's move on to some fun facts. But before we do that, let's once again thank our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by Microdose Gummies, an FYA favorite here.
You've probably heard increasing discussion about microdosing. People all over are microdosing THC for a bunch of reasons.
Yeah, look, we at FYA love these gummies. For me, it really helps me to get in the right mindset for relaxing. Kind of burns off all that stress and eases me into a good mood. Like a nice warm bath.
Yeah, when I'm deep in the YouTube hole and on my 20th ride POV vid, nothing helps me focus more like microdose gummies.
So I've been there.
But folks use it for all sorts of reasons, relieving pain or anxiety, boosting your mood, exercise and post-workout recovery, spicing up the sex life a little bit maybe, kickstarting your creativity. The list just doesn't end.
All I'm saying is there's a ton of benefits, and if you're interested in finding out how microdose gummies can work for you, here's how. To learn more about microdosing THC, go to microdose.com and use code FYA to get free shipping and 30% off your first order. Again, that's microdose.com, code FYA. Microdose.com, code FYA for 30% off. And we are back. It's time for some fun facts. Let's start it off here. The ride is 5 minutes and 34 seconds with a top speed of 64.9 miles per hour, the fastest in the entire resort. And according to Byron, the fastest in all of Disney parks, which I did not know. I thought there was something that had dethroned it at this point. The ride has a theoretical ride capacity of 1,200 riders per hour and a whopping cost of $300 million to build, estimated at least, which at the time was the most expensive ride in Disney Parks history and has since been dethroned by the likes of things like Cosmic Rewind, which apparently cost around like $500. Which is crazy. It still is one of the most expensive attractions in the entire world. It's actually $100 million more expensive than the ride system that's aped it over at Disney California Adventure in Radiator Springs Racers, because that is the same ride system.
Same ride system. There are 3 rides, all juicy exclusives.
Yeah. Radiator Springs and California Adventure.
That was the last one that was made. 2000. It was either 2000. No, it's 2001. I think. Journey to the Center of the Earth
Over at Disney Sea. That's why I was curious. That one doesn't go faster than 64.9.
It does not.
Interesting. Anyways, the system is basically a giant advanced slot car, as Byron mentioned earlier, measuring in at 5,246 feet of track.
Sheesh.
And while it may not feel that way, it's because it's interweaving over itself. There is a first and a second level fitting into that circular building that Byron mentioned earlier that they gutted from World of Motion.
And then a whole lot of straight track, which, do you know the World of Motion track length?
No.
I think it's something to the tune of, it's over 1,000 feet. It might be 1,700 or so feet. Like for an Omni mover, that's fucking insane. It was a 15-minute ride.
It moves so slow too. On the topic of the ride's records, the 64.9 miles per hour is achieved in 8.8 seconds, and the cars themselves have 250 horsepower. Am I crazy for thinking 8.8 seconds doesn't feel that fast to go 64.9?
It's a Disney ride. Get over it.
I'm just saying, like, that's like it's listed as like this impressive feat of motion, and I'm just like, that's not that fast.
For it's, I don't know, for the time. It's not a roller coaster.
Well, it's not it's not like a launch. It is a launch in that you're going through the barrier, but it works its way up to that speed as you're going around the banked turns and everything.
It's got that very long final straightaway that hits. So it's got a long time to hit that 64.9.
Apparently, the ride vehicles are powered by 3 onboard computers that have more combined processing power than a space shuttle. I can't imagine that holds true today, but at the time, it was true. There are little nods to World of Motion in today's test track, including World of Motion logos, as well as a sign reading FN2BFRE, which is a reference to World of Motion's theme, It's Fun to Be Free. There used to be crash test dummies in the queue, as we mentioned earlier, in the first iteration of Test Track, and that put riders through the same tests that those dummies would have gone through, which, as I mentioned earlier, I loved that storyline. Apparently, the current version of Test Track was inspired by Tron Legacy, a great film to take inspiration from, because we all know how good of a movie that was.
Hey, you know what? So good they built a ride in Shanghai, and then they built a clone of it over at Magic Kingdom.
And so good they're making a TV series.
And so good they made it really awkward that there's 2 Tron-looking rides in the same Disney resort.
Yeah. What was the name of Jeff Bridges' evil version of himself? In
Clue, right?
That's right. His name was Clue. I forgot about that. Oh, damn it. That's that Clue, Jeff Bridges says in the film. Anyways, they took inspiration from that. It's quite obvious. I don't know if that's confirmed to be true, but I believe it. Each car was designed to last 1 million miles. And that's not exaggeration. Each year, these cars travel 50,000 miles with custom Goodyear tires, as Byron mentioned earlier. These cars also have 6 braking systems compared to the normal 2 in typical cars. And even stranger, each car has 22 wheels. There are the 4 that you see, and then there's 18 hidden underneath. It's a kind of a complicated system. It doesn't seem that complicated because it's like, it's a fucking slot car. But I mean,
they're hiding all this stuff underneath.
Exactly.
Underneath the road, there's a buzz bar. And then there's like millions of calculations that are being made on the fly.
Usually the buzz bar is what I'm doing over at the World Showcase nearby. And I would say it's not even the buzz bar.
Do you pre-game the buzz bar?
No, you don't.
The buzz bar.
Anybody who pre-games drinking around the world should be in prison. Because that's 11 drinks if you're doing a drink per place.
Because I've done the opposite. I've done the around the world and then got on Test Track.
Now that's fun.
It was a great time.
We've done that before. Last time for my bachelor party, we drank around the world and then we hit a rock and roller coaster.
That's right.
Anyways, we took the boat over. Apparently the cars in Test Track, I did not know this, were supposed to go 95 miles per hour. But due to Florida's legal speed limit being 65, it was lowered from 95 to 65.
That's fucking bonkers that they have to abide by it because it's technically on like a road.
Well, the thing is, we all know that Floridians deeply care about obeying the law. So we have to make sure that these cars abide by a street legal driving limit.
I think it's just really funny that coasters could go like as fast as you want them to go. But since this is on a road.
I can't say this for sure, but I think I can. If they made this ride 95 miles an hour, I can almost guarantee that not one Floridian would be like, hey, wait a second. The speed limit's 65, buddy. Why don't you go ahead and lower that down so you can stop setting a bad example for me and my kids?
Yeah,
now let me get on my gator and go back home.
I can't say that I see everyone on the 4 freeway out there going 65 or less.
Yeah, you think everyone's just riding at the 10 and the 2 on the steering wheel, just going 65?
No, I see these pink convertibles zooming down to Miami.
That's right. That's right. But hey, look, thank you for obeying the law. This would have kicked ass if this went 95. Could you imagine how that would feel on those bank turns?
Michael Eisner saying just full send, fuck it.
Yeah, dude.
Extraterrestrial alien encounter, Test Track,
why not?
like same era, just like we are a thrill fucking company.
If this ride came back and the only thing they changed, they didn't change any of the crazy aesthetic they have now, the Tron aesthetic. And if the only thing they did was up that speed to 95, I'd be like, fair trade. That's fine. However, due to the 50-degree angle of the outside track, it's said that guests feel as if they are traveling at 90 miles per hour.
That's what I was going to say. I'm like, that bank turn at 95 would be something.
Dude, that's what I'm saying.
And I'm wondering how the structural integrity of that track would do.
If they did that, oh boy, they'd have to be handing out brown pants at the entry to the ride.
I don't think those cars are getting a million miles.
No, they aren't. But it would be worth it. But this is similar to how the goat effect can trick your mind to make things feel more intense. If you know that little trick for Big Thunder Mountain, a ride we haven't covered yet. The track is also hurricane proof, or at least as hurricane proof as it can get, being able to withstand winds of up to 200 miles per hour. But from my experience, this track really has trouble with a light drizzle because they shut it down all the time. It can handle 200 miles of wind.
It's a fickle ride,
but a
system.
nice little trickle of rain. It's I guess we'll take our ball and go home. It's kind of funny to me. The attraction used to change by 100 degrees in the temperature simulation rooms.
Let's demonstrate some extreme test conditions.
Incredible.
It's pretty great. I miss it.
Good. I miss it too. As you mentioned earlier, this was designed so that 29 vehicles could be on the track simultaneously, with cars being more than 180 feet apart to give the computer enough time, though 25 is usually what they're rocking with nowadays.
I was going to say 29 seems
a lot.
Anytime they say like the maximum capacity, you got to think on average, they're not.
I think they only have, I mean, I saw this fact and I didn't write it down, but I think it's like in the low 30s, like 31 or 32 vehicles total.
Oh, interesting.
So,
but 25 makes a lot more sense.
Well, because you have some that need maintenance, you need to rotate them off the track, makes sense.
As we've noticed with other roller coasters, I think Hagrid's ran into this issue too, is where they notice maybe we can't do quite as many trains or vehicles as we wanted to, just for the sake of keeping this thing operating, because it keeps needing a reboot.
That does it for the fun facts. Let's go ahead and move on to the good and the bad. But before we do that, let's once again thank our sponsors. And we are back. It's time for the good and the bad. What are the good and bad things about this ride? I'm very excited to get into this. And I will let you know, I really did my best to put in the goods here because I'm judging the current test track here.
I got some.
Okay, I got some. So if I missed some, first thing I wrote, the speed. As simple as it can get. It's the fastest in the resort, I guess the fastest in the world as it comes to Disney parks, and I respect that. It feels fun to go fast.
Feels fun to go fast.
It's great. Having the wind blow. It's pretty fun at night,
Oh, great night ride.
Like that. Also, I love that you could see the speed you're going on that little digital sign. Kind of like the signs that you see when you're, riding on the freeway and it's like, hey, you should slow down right now. Except I'm on a ride. I don't have to slow down.
You don't have to think.
I was just looking at a ride video because normally I'm watching ride POVs while you're talking about
Yeah.
these, and the speed for the one I saw was 64.9.
64.9.
64.9.
64.
Can't be right, is it? Or do you think you're just saying that?
Oh, you mean that is it actually?
Is it going to always going to say
is it always going to nail
64.9?
64.9? That's true.
Probably.
Probably. It's probably
I've
just
never
programmed.
seen it post otherwise.
I'm just saying there's potential that's not going that fast.
That's like one of those things that I just haven't thought about, but it actually makes sense that would be the case. Like I saw a tweet the other day that was like, "How's Godzilla standing in the middle of the ocean?"
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
What has he got like?
They
extendo
show that
legs?
like diagram or like that
Yeah.
photo of how
And
long his legs would be.
get fucking huge. And this is something I've never wondered on test track, which is like, there's no way that's 64.9 every time. You mean it's that precise?
Look, here's the deal though. If they were gonna lie about the speed limit, wouldn't 64.9 be kind of weak?
It would be, yeah, it would be weak. But I mean, maybe they wanted to. I mean, then again, 3 computers. More powerful than a space shuttle, apparently. So maybe it's like, I'm going to nail 64.9 every time, just so I could get as close to that legal driving speed limit so that Floridians don't start picketing outside the park going, you went 65.1. Lock them up. Lock them.
They should just do it in kilometers and just not put kilometers. So like,
Yeah, fair enough. Next good I wrote, the ride system. It is the first of its kind. Did you ever do slot car racing? I did. It was very
no,
fun.
I did like similar, but it wasn't technically an actual slot car. Like
I'm
I did
talking
have
about,
those
like,
little remote control on
Yeah.
like a track, but it wasn't technically like a slot car where it used like a little like buzz bar to like power it.
It is, and I actually...
These were like mine were battery powered.
There is a place in the Deep Valley. I forgot what the name of it was. It's no longer there, I think, but I think it was like Joe's Slot Car Derby or something like that. I can't remember the name, but you would actually go there, design your slot car, and then race it among all the other kids' slot cars. It was fucking sweet.
Why don't we get shit like that anymore?
And it's a perfect example because now we get Test Track, the sim track where you design a car where the design has nothing to do with the car's actual performance in the ride. We're getting into the bad already, and I'm starting to get upset, but I'm going to just stick to the good. Back to the good. It's a truly unique dark ride. I think that's a fair thing to say. Both the original and the new one are very unique, and it's one of the few dark rides in the world that I think truly combines the level of thrills with this kind of theming.
True.
And I think you could say that for both.
That's
I honestly
fair.
think you could say that.
And I will also add that this was the catalyst for Epcot becoming a quote unquote thrill park.
Dude, Epcot kicks so much fucking ass. Dude.
I do love Epcot.
Next good I wrote, designing your own car is fun, I guess.
Yeah.
I think I was really mustering that one out.
I had that in there too. Yes, there's pros and cons, but it's interactive. It is a smart way to disguise a wait time as opposed to a generic pre-show. I'll give them that.
That's fair. And I will say that once you realize it doesn't matter what you do with your design, you can make it as wacky as possible. I remember I made my car body as small as it possibly could be and put the biggest fucking wheels I could on. So it just looked ridiculous.
You get some funky looking things.
Yeah.
And you have like the clock winding down too. So you have to like make some stupid decisions.
Also, because I don't know how the scoring works, it was really fun to see my car design pop up on the screen. And if it got first, people were like, that's the car that I just lost to? The little noisy cricket?
Oh, gosh. And you know what? Another positive is I think even Fast Pass and Single Rider get to do that as well. So you're not missing out on the most important parts of the queue. Speaking of single riders, this was one of the first, I don't think this was the first, but it was definitely one of the first attractions
to do single rider?
To do single rider, at least for Disney.
I didn't know
and
that.
a big reason for it was because the ride was so unreliable in its early years that they needed to find some way to increase capacity. So they implemented a single rider line, I think as early as 1999 or like 2000. It was early on.
Oh, shit.
So
well, that's kind of cool.
And now they've been doing single riders like everywhere. So that's cool.
I have a couple goods here that are going to talk about the old ride just because I can't help myself. Look, the aesthetic of the old ride was goddamn perfect. It was absolutely perfect. The queue was beautiful. The storyline very evident. Great pre-show video with John Michael Higgins and his assistant.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the test track. My name is Bill McKim. I'm up here in the control center. In just a couple of minutes, you're going to be out there on that track.
He's telling her what tests he wants us to be run through.
It's so authentic too, because he's like they're like at the computer. He's like kind of crouching down over. It looks kind of, like, it looks uncomfortable but real.
Yeah, he's like, why don't we run them through test number 3 and 7 and then throw in a little bit of the anti-brake lock there. And she's like, are you sure about that? And he's like, it'll be fine.
We'll even throw a few surprise tests in there.
Surprise test?
Yeah. Pick one.
I mean, that bleeds into the ride too, because they're interacting with you during the ride.
Yes, and it's beautiful. And the aesthetic reminded me, it felt like old 90s A&E television. It felt like you walked into the world of the A&E network. Like, you know how they made those shows like How It's Made, and it would like be like metal, like it would like, and then it would be the How It's Made logo coming on of like metal crushers.
It felt like you were walking into something that was a legitimate operation. Really.
It was tactile. It was based in reality. There is an actual GM proving ground where they do this with cars and make them run through all these tests. It had stakes, which I appreciated. And I loved seeing the crash test dummies in the queue taking hits. It was pretty fun. And also in the old queue, if you looked up, there was a window along the top of the roof. You could see the car speeding by.
Oh, shit.
Which is fucking sick.
I don't remember that.
I do.
I loved how, like, during that era, they found the perfect way to tease an attraction to build anticipation.
Yeah.
Without giving too much of it away.
No, exactly.
It's like, so for example, our first time on this ride, it was probably like, oh, I'm excited to go fast.
Yeah.
That's all you just see the outside photos. You get a little tease of the track. You hear
Is that actually what you're thinking every time you get on a roller coaster? You buckle up and
when I'm 8 years old, that was what I was excited
what
to do.
about
That's what
at
the
your
ride.
current
That was
age?
what I thought the purpose of the ride was.
The little thing clicks into the roller coaster and you're like, click, click. Seatbelt restraint does on.
No,
you're not thinking.
No better
I'm excited
feeling,
to go fast.
No better feeling in the world than that seatbelt or lap bar check. Like when you first get into a thrill ride vehicle, and it's like, oh, this is real.
Yeah, that's right. Honestly, I might be thinking I'm excited to go fast too.
It's pretty awesome, and for this one, just builds just the right amount of anticipation, and at least for the original version, you get a whole dark ride added to it.
It's fantastic.
You didn't go in the first time you went into this ride, you didn't go in thinking you were going to get this great dark ride.
No, you didn't. You just thought it was going to be something that went fast. But then here you are interacting with John Michael Higgins. He's telling you what you're about to do, and then you do it.
Let's proceed to the rough road tests.
You got it.
It was fucking sick. Anyways, that's it for the old ride until we get to the bad. And then I'm going to start using that as to how I'm talking about the new ride.
You're going to bring in goods from the old ride and the...
Hey, I didn't say I was going to do that. I was just going to say that I'm going to measure it against itself, which I think everyone should do. It's a healthy thing to do.
I like it.
And often days when you do that to yourself and you look in the mirror, I find that I don't measure up, and that's okay. Accelerating uphill to start the ride, that's pretty novel.
I have that as well.
It's really fun.
Great.
Welcome to the sim track.
I like that.
And that is the only moment of the ride because you don't realize at that time that everything's going to be same.
Yeah.
So when you're going up and you're hearing the cool sound effects and all the cool pixels and shit flying around, it does get you excited.
I will admit the first time I got on Test Track 2.0, when we go fast up that uphill and all like the Tron sound effects and look was there, I did get excited. I was like, whoa, maybe this is going to be even better. And then the whole ride just felt the same. And I was like,
it's the same.
Never mind.
The motion of the ocean, exactly the same. I did add as a good though, I do, and this was also in the old version.
Yeah.
I like the loading. I like the seatbelt check where with these slot car rides, you can see it also in Radiator Springs is they load multiple cars at a time and they kind of get dispatched in chunks.
And then they check their seatbelt
and then they
later.
check so that there's, other people could be getting in the seats. For Test Track, you're kind of all sharing this little, yeah, they do it for Indy. Well, yeah, they do it for Indy.
Yeah,
it's true, which is also kind of a similar
the EMBs
ride type. They have to do it that way. But for Test Tracks in particular, they kind of stop you on this little like inclined spiral before you hit the initial lift.
Hello, the seatbelt check is around the corner. For your safety, remain seated with your seatbelt fastened and your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the vehicle at all times.
There's something cool about someone being like, make sure your seatbelt's on when you're at the bottom of an uphill. Because it's like, oh, damn, what is about to happen to me?
Yeah.
First little launch, it's pretty fun. still thrilling to go through that layout. All the launches feel the same after that. But,
is this during the capability test?
It's the first little launch after the hill.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's hard for me to discern what test is going on at what time.
Because the first test is called the capability test.
Yeah.
And it's where, and I did have this as a good, in theory, the idea of testing a car's performance and in quote, challenging weather and surface conditions.
Sure.
Kind of, I think they had the same idea in the first version. This one's not done as well.
No, it's not.
But the capability test, that's where you get that first launch.
The handling of these vehicles is really fun. You don't really feel this as much on Radiator Springs because they don't really go there. It's more focused on the dark ride scenes in that version. And I haven't been on Journey to the Center of the Earth over at Tokyo Disney Sea because I've never been there. But I will say that the handling around the turns on this is still thrilling.
Yeah,
and,
it's great.
And it plays into something like the truck scare, which happens at the end of the ride.
Which I think really shines in the third test of this ride, the responsiveness test.
Yeah.
Which is it might, for me, probably because it's the closest to the original version.
Yeah.
Where you're basically weaving around the trees and shit. The only difference is they made it all digital.
Commencing responsiveness test.
Okay, the responsiveness data is now being synchronized.
You know, the only difference they made is that you can't see where you're going. So it's
where it used to have
turning, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Used to have guardrails and like practical trees.
Yeah.
And then that jump scare
of
a semi, they still have it. Was cool when it was an actual semi, not a digitized one.
Yeah. But the outdoor finish still really, really thrilling. It feels like you're driving a race car once again because you could actually feel the tires on the ground, which I think is important.
How do you like the anticipation for the final sequence
of the new
version? They call it the power test.
Sure.
Here comes the final test.
Energizing for power test.
I don't think it's as fun as seeing a car, crash into a barrier and then you get crashed into a barrier and then the barrier disappears. One's clearly better than the other.
Oh, for sure. You can't unsee it after you've experienced the original version.
The bank turns, we talked about it a lot. They're great. Seeing the speed readout, very satisfying. I talked about that earlier. And it's cool to feel like you're navigating through the innards of the entity from Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. That's what this ride looks like. It looks like, you remember that scene in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning when that guy, the villain's has the goggles on and he's looking at that. This feels like when I'm in this ride. And maybe after seeing that film, I'll enjoy this ride more. But then again, I did watch a ride POV and I have seen that film and it made me hate the ride even more. So maybe not. That's my last good.
This, for many, could be considered a bad.
Let's hear it.
This is probably Disney's most expensive gift shop.
yeah, sure.
Because you're basically their gift shop is actual show vehicle. They're trying to sell you cars.
Showroom.
And you know what? I gotta say, I think it works.
It does not work. This is actually a bad of mine.
Here, you don't think it works?
I'll read verbatim what I wrote. It's actually my last bad. Exiting into a Chevy showroom is goofy as hell.
You think it's goofier than any other generic gift shop?
Yeah, because okay, first off, nobody is impulse buying a car. It's hard for me to impulse buy a hoodie, let alone be let me get off this ride that I didn't enjoy. And oh yeah, I guess I have $20,000 burning a hole in my pocket. Let me buy myself a fucking pickup truck. That's crazy, dude.
It plants a seed.
It doesn't plant a seed.
It plants a seed.
It takes a piss on a seed.
I'm telling you, it plants a seed.
I don't think
I'm leaving it at that.
All right. Did you buy a car the last time you got off?
I don't know. I did not, but someone I know got an electric vehicle a few years later.
Who did that? There's nobody that did that. That's crazy.
Who
are you friends with? Brad Pitt?
I could just tell I was with him.
Oh my God, that's insane.
I'm just saying, General Motors has a long-standing relationship. They keep sponsoring it, so something must be working.
I'd love to see the conversion numbers. I'd love to see how many vehicles they've sold in that room.
I doubt that you got someone coming in there oh, I'm going to buy a Camaro, but maybe for their more fuel efficient, the electric kind of the cheaper electric cars and stuff like that. I don't know.
What's the
I would love to
thinking
look.
behind
I would like
this?
to look at the numbers. Whatever they're doing, they're keeping the sponsorship. Like even through this new refurb, I think General Motors is staying on. So whatever they're doing, they're getting money off.
I
it.
could be
So-
in the minority here, but I'm also the kind of person where car commercials don't work on me. Like I've never seen a car in a commercial and been like, I gotta have that. I gotta have that car right there. Like that's never gonna work on me. And also, the last thing I feel like any human wants when they're getting off a ride is be like, you know what I wish I could interact with right now? A car salesman. I'm dying to talk to a salesman right now as I exit this ride that I'm
That's
disappointed with. Anyways,
Also, you said that a pickup truck would cost $20,000.
how much does a pickup truck cost?
Like 50, 60.
That's
You're out of
crazy.
here.
They're not putting used
haven't bought a car
they're
in a
not
long
putting used
time.
cars in that exit.
No,
Look.
just the next time you buy a car, you're gonna have a problem.
Here's the thing, friend. I'm not buying a car for a long time. I'm going to drive my baby into the ground.
Your current one will go for 20, maybe.
I did have to get it repaired recently because the bumper was starting to fall off.
I noticed that. I was concerned.
Yeah. Mari was like, we can't be driving on the freeway with this because if the bumper falls off, it's going to go under the tires. And I was like, yeah, you're painting a picture.
She probably couldn't stand the sound of the.
Yeah, it
whole
would drag
drive.
on the ground every now and then, and I'd have to kind of like kick it into place. But I will say, even with my bumper dragging around, I would not get off this ride and be like, it's time to fire up a Chevy. Anyways, well, no, you have more goods, right?
Oh wait,
I can't believe that was a good for you. That's an embarrassing moment.
I said it. I said it's most likely. It's partially a bad. I just think it's funny that it has to be the world's most expensive gift shop to exit.
It has
through.
to be. No,
It's
that's
really,
good.
I
That's
think,
a good bit.
I think it's good in terms of being funny.
Sorry,
You know
sorry to interrupt again. I'm looking at a forum of people who have said that they have purchased their car from Test Track.
How many
Or not
people are-
from, but because of.
How many people are in that forum?
It's a lot of people.
That's fucking
It's got 5
insane, dude. That's insane.
It finally happened after writing
They're all
Test Track
bots. There's
2.0
no
in
way.
March.
Threw my
We poked
pen.
around.
Oh,
There's
fuck, I
no
threw my
way.
pen. I'm
There's
done.
no way, dude.
Oh damn it! I lost my pen for the episode.
You know what the funniest part about
All
that
right.
showroom being there is that it actually shares the space with a legitimate gift shop where they sell like souvenirs and candy and shit like that.
Well, I think there's a better chance of me buying a car from Chevrolet than buying a Test Track 2.0 T-shirt. So
I wish I would have bought a Test Track T-shirt of the
Like the
original
OG?
version. Oh my god,
a dummy
dude.
on it.
I bet you I could find some on like eBay or something for like $10.
Gotta be some fan.
I think what I'm reading is that a lot of the suggestion is like, well, Disney wouldn't partner with a bad car company. And so a lot of these
I'm
people are
telling
saying
you,
they must be reliable.
it's a very fruitful partnership
My
in
critique-
comparison to so many of the other sponsors that have come and gone
Yeah.
with other Disney attractions. This one has stayed the entire time.
My critique isn't on Chevy being a bad car company. I just think it's insane to try and sell a car to somebody after they get off a car ride.
Oh, sorry. I mean, I'm reading they're saying, yeah, I wasn't really like, I knew that I wanted a car. We were at Test Track and they're just there to look at.
This is making me lose a
And
little
in
faith
a
in
not
humanity,
dealership, in a not dealership situation.
I'm
So
loving every moment.
there's a lot of pressure.
Keep
to
it
go.
coming, Matt.
There's a lot
Keep
of
it
pressure
coming.
when
I'm
you look at a
loving
car at a
this.
dealership, and this is a very no pressure way to look at a new car.
Nope. You mean to tell me? Okay, here's what I'm having trouble thinking about it, just because it feels so almost archaic to be like, let's put these people on a car ride, a ride where you're riding a fake car, and let's funnel them into a car showroom. They'll buy them. Like, I can't believe that happens.
Scoreboard.
That's crazy, man.
Scoreboard.
Hey, look, if you bought a car in Test Track and I've offended you, I am sorry. I didn't realize that people actually.
Also, think about how much it costs to go there.
That's what I'm saying.
But then you're like, okay, well, I mean, if we're trying to find people who have money for cars, then not a bad place to look.
But a lot of people are like saving up for
I
a
know.
Disney vacation, and they're like, I can't even buy like an extra churro today. So it's like, let me get in this let me buy a pickup. Look, I guess, maybe it is a lucrative partnership and they are onto something. You know what, Chevy, I owe you an apology. I wasn't familiar with your game. I'm sorry.
I've loved every minute of this. I'm ready to move on to the bads.
Okay, let's move on to the bads. First bad, the queue is lifeless. The pre-show and the safety video is an abomination. When you go from the pre-show video with John Michael Higgins and he's having a good time, they're leaning over a computer, they're asking each other what test should they throw us through. Maybe they shouldn't do that one. That's kind of dangerous. And now you go to a straight up, get in your car, fasten your seatbelt kind of thing. You're going to be on the sim
It
track.
just felt more personable. Like you connected.
No personality at all to this new queue, nor the pre-show video. I will say, I will give a kudos that designing a car is a good way to distract people in line. But on that note, it doesn't make sense if that doesn't come into play even a little bit in terms of the ride experience itself. Sure, you see a score that comes along the side that you're like, hey, look, I got 100 points for something.
Well, that's another bad I have is that sometimes at best you get to see your score.
But even if you do see your score, I don't know what it's referring to. Like, I don't have any actual feedback for how that affected the experience. Therefore, how could I know how that affected the score?
True.
Also, the score, like, they're going through tests where here are the names of the tests: capability, efficiency, responsiveness, and power. These sound like the things that are on the back of Pokemon cards where
It does. Oh my gosh, the design of those too,
Yeah.
like when they all
They
pop
look
up,
like
they
Pokemon.
remind me of those power cards.
Also, if you're going to design a ride where you're putting people through tests that are going to be thrilling, you really think that efficiency is a thrilling test to put me through on our fucking thrill ride?
Look, that was a Chevy, that was a shoehorn from Chevy. Like, hey, like we're trying to make like efficient cars. We'll take you through this room where we'll throw like pixels over like a mirror and make you think. That's what actually a bad in general I had, and this will span the entire experience now in terms of it being soulless. Is a lot of sound, a lot of like designs and pixels thrown your way, so it's like to trick you into a lot happening, but ultimately.
But the thing is,
nothing's
there
happening.
is a lot happening on the track. Just let us experience that. Don't
like
put
physically, yeah.
Don't put all this weird stuff there. Because like I'm telling you right now, if I was designing a ride and I was like, all right, we're going to put them through 4 tests on a thrill ride, efficiency is not going to make the list for me. Like, how do you even test that on this ride?
Engaging EcoScan for aerodynamic efficiency.
Efficiency's not fun.
What is there going to be a part where we stop and fuel up? And be like, look at the mileage we're getting on this bad boy.
Like what they do in the ride is what it's like to make it look like how like aerodynamic or something it looks.
I don't know. It's goofy. It's a goofy thing. And honestly, now that I think about it, you're probably right. It's probably for Chevy being like, let's show people how efficient we're being and environmentally conscious we're being on this.
I've got another shoehorn for you. Connecting to OnStar.
Connecting to OnStar.
It says this during the first,
yeah, it does.
like right when they're starting to get the like the tires primed for like this the road, like the terrain on the compatibility test. It's
surprised
like
it didn't ask me for a
connecting
pin.
to OnStar, and immediately I'm taken out.
Yeah, it asked me for a pin so I could pair my iPhone to it, so I could listen to fucking Bruno Mars or something on the ride.
There's an idea.
There you go. Make it like Rip Ride Rocket.
There you
go. Next bad, the new aesthetic blows. The sim track far inferior to the real feel of the proving ground. One of the things is because the darkness of this entire ride in this, I guess, dark ride makes it very hard to process what the hell you're seeing.
It's samey.
It feels like the exact same test over and over and over again.
The original may have not had like an overwhelming amount of stuff going on, but they were practical.
Here's what I wrote. The simulations are incredibly hard to understand and pretty indiscernible. Like the off-road test, it's just you moving fast through a digital off-road environment, whereas the previous test had you going over different actual tactile environments. You go over a bumpy road, you're actually going over a bumpy road. And I don't even know if the road actually was bumpy, but the car bumps around as if you were going over like cobblestones or something
and like
that.
Mr. Higgins is talking you through it.
And he's like, yeah.
Now you have like just like the most generic voice, like automated voice, just giving you a lot of verbiage.
Yeah, I'm talking to Siri the entire ride. Instead, whereas before, they used to actually pause the car right before you would do the test and tell you what test you were going to do and how it was going to feel so that your brain could actually process the experience when you do it. Now it's just like, I don't even know what's happening. If you told me, like, gun to my head after I got off this ride for the first time, hey, do you want to name one of the tests you went through? No way. There's no way anybody's coming off of this with any kind of comprehensible experience. The truck scare. Like you said, it's digital now, but that's not even my issue with it. Like before, because you could actually see where you were going, you could actually see the curves you were going around, you were tracking the movement of the vehicle, therefore you could get scared by a truck. like you do in Radiator Springs Racers. But in this particular case, everything is so samey. I'm just like, oh, I guess I'm going to die now. Like, but by the time I've processed that, we're already past it.
Yeah. Those headlights hit you way harder in the original version.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, speaking just the truck jump scare in general, there's no way that Radiator Springs Racers didn't take this out of the playbook there and put it in their ride.
Yeah, they probably, they saw it from the original test track.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, that works. And then I wonder what they would think if they got on it on the version that's there now. They probably wouldn't have done that. There's no humor at all to this ride. It's a humorless experience.
I need a little more Davis.
Well, the thing is, like, there were fun little moments in the original ride. Like, there's the part when you go into the corrosion lab in the original ride, and the John Michael Higgins comes over as a voiceover, and he goes, "Hey, did you remember to turn off those robots?"
Did you remember to turn off those robots?
And you see the robotic arms kind of like coming towards the car, whereas now it's just this robot voice talking to you the entire time, and then it's over. No story to this at all. Like, really.
Which is even, I mean...
The other one had a story, which is crazy because it's literally just testing a car, and they somehow made it into a comprehensible story.
Which really makes me wonder how, like, fans of the original World of Motion, how they felt with Test Track. Because Test Track, in a way, like, I don't know if you ever, like, looked at footage of World of Motion.
No, I know the basic premise, though, that it was just basically like...
It's like Spaceship Earth almost on steroids.
Just how
15 minutes long. Like, I think they had over 100 animatronics.
It's the evolution of transportation as time went on.
It's very, it has a very similar flow to Spaceship Earth, but it looks gorgeous. So I'm wondering if some of those fans of that ride, once they got on Test Track, were, oh, this has no story now in comparison.
The next bad I wrote is so angry.
You're so angry?
It's reading very angry. Like, this whole thing is reading angry. What the fuck is the difference between capability and responsiveness? How is there any discernible insight into the efficiency in this ride? I already went off book by saying that off the cuff. But capability and responsiveness, how are those different? This car is capable, but it's also... they feel like the same thing, which is probably why the tests feel the same.
I feel like you'd have to do all the tests and then you determine whether or not the car is capable. Very carpet for the horse.
Yeah, I don't get it. I think this ride, it represents everything wrong about the direction of where rides were going at this time. In terms of, like, it's like a screen ride basically, except it's not. In that it's a turn away from real tactile experiences on rides and instead going more into like simulations. It just stripped away something that was like so beautifully set in the real world to put you literally in a computer. Like, it's a simulation track. I just don't get it. I don't understand it at all. And I think there was a movement around this time, like with Tron and all that stuff, that kind of leaned into this aesthetic and this kind of storyline. And I'm glad we got away from it.
There's like an Eisner era of Imagineering.
Yeah.
That like ended up taking a sour turn when all the budget cuts and stuff happened.
Yeah.
Early years of Eisner, just like early years of Iger, I feel like Imagineering was like booming.
Yeah.
And this is like one of those early indications of just like a lot more like soulless reskin material, as opposed to like really capturing what made Disney attractions magical or,
oh, I agree.
Timeless.
No, I agree. That's my last bad. I'm just, I got it all out of my system. I got it all out.
It's very much an obvious Chevy ad. That was my last
bad. I mean, you could tell that by the million Chevy signs you see around this attraction.
Hey, it worked.
And if that wasn't a dead giveaway, maybe the Chevy showroom would be a dead giveaway that you walk through at the end, which apparently was very successful.
All it needed, you know what? They were just missing a song. They got to bring back the fun to be free.
I guess so.
Although an automobile is far from it.
Well, let's all take a breath and let's take a break to thank our sponsors. And then when we come back, we'll talk about the world-class tests. And we are back. We've calmed down. We did a little 5-minute meditation, and we're ready to go. Let's get into the world-class tests.
This is a very like aggressive and hateful like memoriam, by the
way. I didn't intend for that to be this way, but I just like, I have to say it might be the only ride that is in Disney World that I actively did not get on because it made me so sad.
Yeah, I feel like I might be carrying some weight in these world-class tests. That being said, I'm very curious to see how this turns out.
We'll see. I'm going to be objective.
Because there is a
be
world where
objective.
I could see this passing a lot of tests.
I do too. If I'm
But
objective.
to reiterate, we are going off Test Track 2.0,
2.0.
the version that closed today.
And with that, this is a rubric of 10 tests, painstakingly devised by Byron and myself to determine if an attraction is world class. To receive the highly coveted world class pass, the attraction must pass 7 out of 10 tests. A score of 6 out of 10 leaves the attraction up for debate for world class pass standing. And anything lower than 6 out of 10 is an automatic fail. Test number 1, the average tourist test. Would the average tourist have a hard time getting on this ride? Is there a long wait? Is there a complicated queue system? No, I don't think anybody would have a hard time getting on this.
No, if
Pretty cut and dry.
this is the one, okay, I think this is my prediction is that this is the one test that the original version would not have passed that this version does pass. Because when I went in 2000, the first time, it was a nightmare trying to get on this ride.
Well, because the standby was always 2 hours long and the fast pass was already taken up.
There was days that it would be down like the majority of the time.
That's true. They have cleaned that up.
The version that we got up until closing, the 2.0, you got single rider, you got lightning lane, you got standby.
Yeah.
There's more attractions in the park to help carry that weight. You got Cosmic Rewind.
This is
now.
also
You
not a
got-
Lightning Lane Plus ride, or at least it wasn't when it was Test Track 2.0. You didn't have to pay extra to get this one. You could just
No.
you could
That
just
is
reserve
correct.
this as a
Exactly.
normal Lightning Lane when you buy Genie Plus.
Yep. And
which
if
is
not,
nice.
the standby, especially if you're traveling, once again, we said, it's an average of 58 minutes, but it rarely exceeded 75.
And
so
I will say it usually was at 45 when I would see it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'd be at 30.
yeah, so it's a very, very doable ride.
Yeah.
Hard to miss. Pass.
1 for 1. Moving on to test number 2, the Leslie stall test. Would you be willing to wait 60 minutes for this attraction if you've already been on it at least once? Or if everything in the park was 60, would you wait for this? Well, I could tell you no because I haven't.
Yeah, I know. I've actually seen you skip it, like personally. And being a team player, I can guarantee that by myself, because I have done this.
Yeah.
I will wait that 60 minutes.
You would wait 60 for Test Track 2.0.
I did it within the past year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was willing to wait the 60.
So is this
I was not happy about it.
Is this? Oh,
I
yeah.
did. I waited 60.
So
on
is
the
this a
dot.
pass for you then?
It wouldn't have been 60. It said 30 minutes, but then of course it broke down. And then we waited over an hour because like they took forever to
Well,
get
that's
the
kind of cheating then,
lightning
isn't it?
lanes in. And
Would you have waited the initial standby if you knew it
I
was
would
60?
still, if it was 60 on the dot, I would wait 60.
That's crazy.
75,
That's
I'm
nuts.
probably balking because there's other thrill rides at the Disney World Resort now, and I could do without.
I'll wait 30.
But I will.
I'll wait 30.
Yeah, and like if I was a pass holder and I was going all the time, no. But since I go to Disney World no more than once a year at most,
You'll wait 60.
I want to go fast. I want to go fast.
All right. So we're going to 0.5 this one then?
We sure are.
Oh my, dude, that's disappointing.
I've done it.
1.5 out
I
of
can't lie. I will wait the 60. I've done it.
1.5 out of 2. I guess that's what have we been saying that? A fail?
Sure.
That's a fail. Test number 3, the smartphone test. Does the queue of this ride have enough to keep you off of your phone?
It doesn't.
It does not. Unless you're actually designing your car. I know some people, I read people on Reddit saying that they actually just bypass the design part. They just like walk straight through and they don't even bother doing it.
Yeah, but most of the time you don't get that luxury. You still
No,
have to wait
you
a
still have to
shit
wait.
ton of the queue.
You still have to wait, yeah.
And I gotta say, since I have waited
It's
60
brutal.
minutes recently, I am pulling my hair out.
No, it's there's not much to look at.
It is a lifeless queue.
Yeah. That is a fail then. That is 1.5 out of 3, you son of a gun, Byron. Moving on to test number 4, the Tony Stark test. How innovative is this attraction? Does it push theme park tech forward? I think it does.
Yep.
I mean, the original version of this, which is the same version that it has now in terms of ride system, did change the theme park tech. It gave a completely new ride system to the theme park industry. And I think it was one of the first truly thrilling thrill rides in terms of speed that combined dark ride scenes. And they figured that out.
It's a ride system that they've used for 2 other attractions that just so also happen to be very, very popular attractions.
No, and I have to say, that was always an age-old question. How do we put theming into a ride that goes fast, like a roller coaster? How do you make a roller coaster stop and start so suddenly so that you could put theming in? And this ride solved that. So
Yep.
it's a move forward for me.
It's a pain in the ass getting all that programming done.
No, I'm sure, but
they
did it.
slowly smoothed it out over time. It's still not like the most reliable ride system, but
It's somewhat reliable
They still,
now.
they still got it going. So pass.
Yeah, that's a pass. By the time they got it reliable, they took out all the things that make it cool. 2.5 out of 4. Moving on to test number 5, the Hollywood test. Can this attraction be adapted for the silver screen? Does it have a comprehensible story? Even Test Track 1.0, the original, you could make an argument that there could be a fun story here about like.
They're not really telling you a story though.
No, but
it's
you
like this is
understand
how
what's
the
going on.
sausage is made. You're the guinea pig that's going through it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a fun ride story, but I don't know if it would make for a fun film. But I could see you shoehorning
It's an immersive experience. Luckily we don't even have to try shoehorning it
because we're on Test Track 2.0.
That's right.
And
that closed.
There's no story here. I don't know what the story is. I know I'm in a dark room. They've strapped me in and they said, "Have fun, be efficient."
Buy our cars.
Buy our Chevys. 2.5 out of 5. That's a fail. Moving on. Test number 6, the Simpson test. How likely is this ride to be replaced with something new?
I mean, would you consider it being replaced right now? Or that's the thing is, I think this is an ever evolving ride.
Yeah, and it's tough because in its current iteration, it still is technically Test Track.
And they're not saying that they're going to bulldoze Test Track. No. They have said Test Track is coming back as a 3.0.
And we don't know what it's going to be like or how much they're going to change. I think this is a pass. I think it's proving that they're going to keep this ride in some form, in perpetuity, it seems like.
Yeah. And I think as long as they have that GM Disney connection, and GM continues to be willing to fund this thing.
I have to say, I do have a nostalgic connection to having a sponsor on the ride, just because that was such a fundamental part of the beginning of EPCOT and having sponsors for pavilions.
True.
It's a novel thing that isn't on any other rides for the most part, at least visibly. So
well, I like it in the sense that it can keep this ride alive. And if they ever misfire, which they clearly did in 2012, there's an opportunity to plus it and right the ship.
Well, also, GM being the sponsor actually plays into the ride's sensibilities itself because you actually are going through a test of a car. So I think this is actually a perfect marriage of a sponsor. I know that's not what we're talking about in this test, but I will say that I do think that this ride will stay.
Agree. That's a pass.
Moving on, 3.5 out of 6. Test number 7, the signature moment test. Can this ride hold its own without its signature moment? Is it a one-trick pony? Byron.
It's a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
I am waiting the 60 minutes to experience that bank turn at 64.9 miles an hour.
Guaranteed.
If that isn't there, I'm not waiting 60 minutes.
Yeah, what the hell is this ride otherwise now?
Yeah,
now,
but that's the thing is the first version, 1999's version, I don't think you need it.
No, I actually, if there was
it's still a good dark ride.
If there was no banked turn, no 64.9 on the outside portion in the original, I'm still having a blast in the interior of the ride going through all these fun little tests.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about the speed. You have like the different, like the handling, you have the different textures that you ride the car over, you have an actual temperature simulation room, and you have some humor and story. So I don't know. I feel like now it's a fail.
Yeah. And even if like, let's just say you took out that final bank turn and left the rest of the outside portion, I still think it would not pass because it's kind of nonchalantly cruising over a parking lot.
It is.
So it's really just that high speed moment at the end that really seals the deal. You get rid of that, it's not passing this test.
Apparently it's enough for you to wait 60 minutes though, which is crazy to me.
It's a fail.
It's a fail. 3.5 out of 7. All right, let's actually now once again thank our sponsors. And when we get back, we will find out the fate of this ride. It's at a 3.5 out of 7. It has the opportunity to get into debate land at least. So we'll see. And we're back. Let's get back into the last 3 tests. We're at 3.5 out of 7. Here's test number 8. The premature detraculation test. Does this ride finish too soon? No.
It's a long ride.
It's a long ride. It's completely worth it. It's thrilling, and it's over 5 minutes. Hard to argue with that.
Over 5,000 feet of track.
It's pretty hard to be angry at that. 4.5 out of 8. Let's move on. Test number 9. We got to nail all 3 of these for this to pass. The exit hall test. Do you see people be physically excited getting off of this ride? Do they have that bounce?
They do.
I regret to say that they do.
They do.
I think the average tourist is coming off of this and going, wow, I went real fast.
Yep.
And even if there's no story, it's like, I still went fast. Even in the dark parts, I went a little fast. And look, they're stoked to see those Chevys apparently in that showroom. They have that bounce after they buy that car. I think this is a pass. I'm being objective here. 5.5 out of 9. Moving forward, gotta nail this one. And I don't think it's gonna. No, test number 10.
You're right.
Test number 10, the fine wine test. Has this ride aged well, Byron? Has your opinion of the attraction appreciated or depreciated since your first experience? Or if it's a new ride, do you believe it will age well?
I mean, it's aged like 10-year-old milk.
Yeah, dude. I've never seen a ride upgrade be so unanimously perceived as worse than the original, than this one. I'm trying to think of another refurb, maybe Figment. I'm trying to think of another ride that comes even close to being like, wow, they really ruined that ride. Because even like some people, I actually see some people out there like Soaring Over the World is like so much better than Soaring Over California, which I don't know. I may agree that Soaring Over California is better, but I still think Soaring Around the World is actually a good ride. You know, I'm trying to think of another. Is there anything that comes close?
Not like this.
Not like this. Like that
I
lady from the Matrix.
I haven't heard a single person defend the new version over the old version. I've heard people enjoy this version. They're not like over the moon about it. There's shiny new toys now. There's other thrill rides. Yeah. So this kind of gets buried into the mix of other Disney thrill attractions. Whereas when it first opened, it was the thrill attraction at Epcot.
Yeah, because even if some people might be saying right now, they might be screaming at me saying, well, people don't like Tiana's. That's not the same ride. It's Splash Mountain being changed into Tiana's. It's not the same ride. Like this is being marketed as like a version of the same ride.
Oh yeah, I get what they were trying to do. They had like, this is the downside of having a sponsor, is that you kind of have to appease the times that are changing, and you have to look forward into getting that to translate into purchases being made. And this dummy crash thing was no longer doing that.
No.
So now they're going back to the drawing board. They're going to have to find some new creative way. I love the idea. I really hope
going back to World of Motion.
I hope this isn't lip service. I really hope this isn't lip service. I really hope they bring some of that charm back to World of Motion. It's great that General Motors was involved in World of Motion.
Yeah.
There is still invested interest in that.
We'll see. But as it stands, that is a fail, right?
That is a fail, definitely, for fine wine test. So that leaves this at what, a 5.5?
5.5 out of 10. Just missed it by that much to get into debate land.
I'm not going to lie. I would not have tried to debate this into being world class.
Okay, I was actually just about to ask you. I enjoy it.
I like going, like, once again, if the novelty of this for me is to go fast and feel a thrill, that's great. But there are plenty of other rides in Orlando as well as Disney World in itself that you can get that same satisfaction. Yeah. So you can't call it world class just off the thrill alone anymore.
No. And you could get, especially in a world of like LSMs and everything like that now.
The ride next to it, Cosmic Rewind.
Yeah, exactly.
That's probably that is more thrilling. We'll cover that, I'm sure. But.
Oh, I fucking can't wait. But I mean, I have to say, I actually I'm stepping back right now and looking at 5.5 out of 10. That somehow feels harsh, but then when I actually look into it,
I think that's pretty fair.
I think it's fair.
I think it's really fair.
What do you guys think? Let us know. Do you think we were too unfair to this ride? I'm sure there's going to be some people out there that are going to be like, well, you were too harsh on this ride.
I enjoy so many like 50% scores.
Yeah,
that I enjoy like Monsters Inc. I still enjoy.
That's correct.
Winnie the Pooh got like a 50%.
That's true.
It still brings value to people's day. I think that's an appropriate score. If we were to do a super quick litigation, which I don't think we need to do, I think the original version would have most certainly gotten world class.
Oh, for sure. Easy.
If we did this score in the year 2000. This is like an 80% or higher.
Maybe we could do that one day as like a bonus episode or something.
Yeah, was Test Track 1.0, the beta test, a world class attraction. But for Test Track 2.0, no, it doesn't get the job done in terms of world class. But I still see a future world class attraction here.
There's something there.
Only time will tell.
This is like when you see like a mega cut of a bad film and you're like, there's a good movie in here. I think
we saw it.
Yeah, we did see it. We did see a good film. There's a good film in here.
And if it's inspired by an attraction that was also universally praised.
Look, they publicly are saying the right things to get this thing back on track.
They have said things like they've done this lip service before, though. So I think it's fair for you to kind of keep your expectations.
Actually, you know what? As we've recorded this, I've switched. I'm now optimistic. I think they're going to nail it.
Fuck yeah.
Anyways, that does it for this episode of For Your Amusement. Thank you all for listening and for watching. If you're over on youtube.com/watcherpodcast, once again, please like and subscribe there, or rate and subscribe if you're listening. You can find me at Ryan S. Bergara on Twitter, or at Ryan Bergara everywhere else, at Byron A. Marin across all socials, and you can follow the pod on socials across all of them at FYA Pod. But until next time, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.